While we sleep, the guardians of the night take to the streets, having said goodbye to those they love. Each other knowing they may never say these words again, they face the evil that we run from. They dedicate their lives to those that would hate them because they wear the badge. They wear the badge not for the glory or recognition, but because they were born to honor the thin blue line. This is the LEO First Podcast. We'll talk to the men and women in law enforcement, those that have retired, and anyone who's impacted by law enforcement. We'll peel back the curtain, and you'll get the real stories. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Every law enforcement officer has a story to tell. Get ready to hear from the men and women who put their lives on the line every day for their communities and their country. Welcome to the LEO First Podcast. Now, here's your host, Michael Laidler.
Sometimes about reading, but you know, it's crazy how, and I'm a big proponent of this. You don't always have to experience something to know what you don't want to do. Exactly. Like you just said, like you looked around and you looked at people and you're like, I don't want to be that person. And you took that momentum and now you shifted it to where, okay, I can be this much better. Not because you're trying to like be mean to people or not, but you just know what you didn't want your image to be. And for a lot of big reasons, I mean, I think one of the biggest things in law enforcement is sometimes we realize how important that badge and patch is when it comes to representing it. Because what you, let's say, do in Missouri, whatever may happen, negative or positive, can carry all the way over to Georgia or California or even across seas, because the public, people that we deal with, even us, we perceive one person in uniform as everybody else. We don't even care who's in the uniform. Yep. So now something you may have done that even perception looks bad, now people are looking at it like, oh, everybody's bad that wears that uniform. So you're right, like that's realizing and recognizing like how impactful you are.
Yeah, and I don't take that responsibility lightly. I mean, especially now that I'm the sheriff of Clay County. I'm involved in things locally, regionally, statewide, and at the national level. Mm-hmm. And now that responsibility is even heavier, and I just feel like I can't let myself down. I don't want to let my family down, but I don't want to let my brothers and sisters down either. Correct. You know, whoever's wearing the badge, and that's not just for law enforcement, that's public safety, to include corrections, right? Mm-hmm. It's everyone who serves in that capacity. And so now it's a matter of, I'm still pursuing. Like I haven't reached the pinnacle of my personal growth or my professional development, because I feel very strongly that if I ever feel like I have reached that point, I just need to retire. Yeah. Because there are always opportunities to learn and be the better version of yourself. Yeah. So when you were talking about that in your presentation, I was just like, yes.
But it's real. But that's what I tell people. Like I tell people all the time, like wherever you're at, there's even more. Yeah. Like you're never. Even if I talk about Kobe Bryant a lot. To him, he was never at the top. He done won championships. He's won MVPs. He won scoring titles. He was all first team, all NBA. To him, that still wasn't enough, because when you're competitive with yourself, you know there's always another level. There's never a peak, so to speak. There's never a cap that you can hit. You can always see it, and as you achieve things, it's like you keep pushing up. But that's part of being the best version of yourself. And I agree with you. I think you do have a lot left, and I do agree that there's more to it because you just have it in you.
Yeah, and I feel like as long as I have it in me, I'm going to continue to push forward, because I also feel like as I continue to push forward, there are people that I try to bring with me. Mm-hmm. I'm like, hey, come with me, because I see value in their drive. That they want more, and so that responsibility is not just for myself, my family, or my organization. It's what am I doing to be the best version of myself? But then how does that translate to how am I making other people around me better versions of themselves? And so it's just a constant drive forward. And I tell people, as long as I have the energy to do it, I'm going to keep doing it. I don't know what's next. I don't know, but we're only promised today. Correct. So whatever tomorrow brings, if I'm that blessed, then I'm going to take it and I'm going to run with it. and just be as happy as I possibly can be while I'm doing it.
That's all you can be. All you can do is literally, and I know I talked about a lot in the presentation. I talked about you gotta understand what's happened to you in the past. As you've mentioned before, growing up without finances. That's important. I mean, you had to suffer through things that some people have never suffered through or have, and they're wondering if they should still be here. You say no, you can do it. You went through several divorces. You've worked multiple agencies. You have kids where you weren't always around, not physically, but obviously emotionally and present in that way. But you're showing that with the right focus, the right dedication, the right understanding that there's more to life, you can keep achieving, you can keep growing. Because once we get into that stagnant part of our life where we think we've done enough, we're letting somebody else down. Because people are always, and like you even said, the prior sheriff to you, he saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself. So it's cool how you're taking, and even if you don't realize, which I'm sure you do, you're taking those experiences and you're definitely highlighting and promoting the positive, because the same way he gave back to you, you just said it, now you want to give back to others, because one day you're going to have to retire too.
Yeah.
Or you're just going to say, you know what, I just want to go, I can't do it no more. I want to be with the kids or the wife, or I just want to go to the cabin and look at deer walk by all day, whatever it might be. But it's cool that you recognize that, because that's, I think, when people obtain the highest level of leadership within themselves and being that strong leader, that's when they get to, because now they want to develop more leaders. That's a whole other level of growth. And obviously you're thinking about it, talking about it, and it sounds like you're living it.
Wow. Someone asked me not too long ago, what do I want my legacy to be? I'm like, I don't think about my legacy. It's because, in a way, it's kind of like, I don't want to talk about my legacy because, I think I have a little more humility than that, and it just feels weird to talk about, this was going to be me and this is what I left behind. But it's because that means I'm coming close to an end of a chapter. And it's really hard for me to think about my legacy because I'm starting to near that chapter. But, I started thinking about it, and I was like, if I'm known for nothing else, it's for how many people I've created opportunities for.
Developed
to go on to be police chiefs or directors of security, or I don't know, the next sheriff of Clay County. Yeah. I was like, I think that's what really gives me fulfillment, knowing that I've provided opportunities. And what I tell my people is, I will open the door for you. It's completely up to you on whether or not you walk through that door. And that was something that I learned from the previous sheriff. I thank him because he's truly the reason that gave me, I feel like I owe it to him. And he said, Will, he goes, all I did was open a door. He goes, you didn't just walk through it, you ran through it. And I think you actually jumped through it.
Because you tell me I was running from something, that's why. I was like, when I was younger and I was running from all this other stuff, I just kept the momentum going.
Right.
Yeah, I already knew how to run, so when you opened the door, I already knew what that meant.
Yeah. So, I just want to make it better for other people. Correct. My mom, when she was still around, the one thing that I didn't understand her at all. And from childhood, it was cool because she would always bring in strangers who ended up being family friends, but she just felt like she needed to be there for that person. To the point where just before she passed away, I would send her money because her financial status never changed. I mean, She was just really rough life.
Yeah.
But you know what she would do? All the money I'd send her, she'd give to the church.
Of course.
And I'm like, Mom, you need that more than...
That's not her.
But...
That wasn't her.
I've learned so many lessons, and I can reflect back now why or what that meant for her and my own walk in my faith. And I would have never understood that back then.
Well, that's what we learn. We mature.
Yeah.
We pay attention, like you said. You start looking back at I'm in the same boat. I look at some things my mother sacrificed and what she continues to sacrifice. While I didn't realize it in the moment or when it was going on, now I look back at it as an adult, as a father myself, and it's like, this is why she did what she did.
Yeah.
And this is why she continues to do what she does, just like you said with your mother. Mom, I just gave you this money. Why'd you give it away? Because that's just who she is.
That's who she
you're
was.
Not changing that. In her mind, her job was to be a giver.
Yeah.
Obviously, she appreciated everything you did for her. Obviously, she's probably said, I love you. Thank you for everything. But now, since that's in her possession, now it's like, hey, now I know what I need to do with it.
Man, check this out. even though she passed away when she was 55, I mean, that was, 17 years ago, I think, is when she passed away. But I'm still learning lessons from her. You know, as I reflect back and I think about who the person she was and why she did things. And that's extremely critical for me now, because last year, was it last year? Time escapes me. Yeah, it was last year. I got an email on my campaign account saying, "Hey, sir, just wanted to let you know we pitched in and bought your dad a plane ticket, and he's going to be in Kansas City tomorrow." Michael, I thought my dad was dead.
What?
The last thing I said to him was,
you said, you didn't,
he left when I was 3.
Yeah. So three to,
Yeah, he came back in my life.
Wow.
When I was 13 for a month. And I was like, oh my gosh, Dad's back. Wow, this is great. And then poof, he was gone again. That's the moment he became dead to me.
Yeah.
1997, right? I've been in the Army for almost 3 years now at this point. My grandfather passes away. My grandmother asks me to go and check on him, and I came back out to let her know, yes, he passed away. But I come back out of the bedroom to commotion outside. And I walk outside, my grandmother's just in tears, and I see my dad and my uncle fighting, arguing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I can't handle this. I walked up to both of them and I said, "You have 30 seconds to get off Grandma's property or else I'm beating both your asses." And they looked at me. I looked at my watch. I said, "Time's ticking."
It was like, trust me, you ain't gonna win this battle yet. Yeah, I'm trained now. Y'all just don't understand. That's why I looked at it. It was like, oh, he might get us on this one. Yeah. Like he's on the bigger side right now. Like he's been working out. Like he's done a few push-ups lately.
Oh my gosh! So they left, and that was the last time I saw my dad. And then I talked with my my uncle, because that was before I moved to Phoenix, where he was at, and he said, "Oh, your dad's homeless." And so my dad was actually homeless for 25. I estimate about 25 years.
Probably after since 97, give or take.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I see this email and I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, who is this?
Yeah. Like, is this a spam? Is this like from a foreign country? Like you guys are just getting me?
So what ended up happening was he would get Social Security checks. He could afford to stay in a hotel, cheap hotel, for 2 weeks, and then he'd run out of money.
Yeah.
So then he would live behind this gas station. Well, he befriended the employees, who all thought they were doing him a solid by pitching in for a plane ticket and flying in from LAX to Kansas City. I didn't know who this guy was. This is a complete stranger.
Yeah, 25 years, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, man, second chances. We've reconnected. I look after him. I care for him. He's got his own apartment. And for someone who was homeless for over 20 to 25 years, he is the most kindest, gentlest person from that circumstance. Correct. Now, I don't know what he was like every other time, because really my first memory of him was him and my mom were fighting, and I was pushing him away because he was hitting my mom. Yeah. And so I really had a low opinion about him anyway. But now he's back in my life. And for going through all that over the last 2 decades, he's nice. We talk. He's clean. He's organized. I looked at his backpack, which had all of his possessions in there, and everything was folded and nicely neat. I was just like
it was structured, like it had structure to it.
Yeah. But now he's back in my life, and I'm caring for him.
So where do you think that level of compassion for a second chance came from?
My mom.
I know. I knew the answer. I was messing
that
with
was
you.
easy.
Well, I was just messing with you. I knew the answer. Everybody listening and watching, we all knew the answer already. But I was like, let me just put it out there just to confirm. But it's crazy how, even given your level of education, obviously you understand about legacy. Our parents didn't understand about legacy like that. They just lived who they were. Yeah. That's all, and who they are. That's also your mother. Everything she did that was how her heart was built. She wasn't taught that. She could have learned it, but not in a school setting. Right. She just realized that, you know what, this is who I am. I need to be that role model for my kids. I know finances suck, but I'm going to do everything I can to help them to survive. And obviously, I know you talked about legacy and you get worried about it because it's like it's all, but legacy starts, what I have learned, Michael Laitler, what I've learned in training and development is legacy starts day one of whatever you do. Yeah. Because you can be Phoenix PD for 5 years, and although you never retired, you left some legacy there, or you could have. So when I talk to leaders like yourself and great people that have great stories, I say your story is always, you've had a legacy all your life. You don't know who's been watching it or needed it, but
So true.
just because you have a legacy, and I know it's hard to talk about it because it's like you said, it makes you, like it takes away, like you think it takes away the humility. For me, as I've learned, it's like, no, you need to, because you need to let people know, like wherever you're at, even if you're day one in college, what you're doing right now is legacy. Your first day on patrol, your first day in the jail, your first day as a sheriff. You don't have to wait till year 3 to say, I want to think about my legacy. No, day 1, like what are you doing to pave the road? And what do? You build yourself up.
You know, it's interesting you frame it like that, because no one ever did that for me when I got into the military or when I got into law enforcement. And now that you framed it that way, I feel like I'm doing a disservice to my employees, my team members, because I'm not framing it that way for them. So it's definitely something that I'm gonna think about after we leave here.
No, it's true. That's but it took me some time. Like I know I told you guys throughout the day. I talked about, I only talk about what I know. And one of the phrases, and it used to be one of my main quotes I used that I created, especially when I first started my business in 2017, was, "It is simple, create your legacy." And the reason why I say that is your legacy starts on day 1 of whatever you're doing. You don't need, like it's not the end, but the end's gonna come someday. Yeah. And you don't wanna start thinking about the end when you're 95% into it. So let's say our life, for example. We know that average life is what? Between 80 and 90, let's just say. Not law enforcement, we're like 55 to 65. Different. Yeah, that's a different story, but let's say this average person. Yeah. So if you know you're gonna end your life, or not end your life, but if your life's coming to an end between 80 or 90, why wait till you're 60 to 70 to say, you know what, I need to start building my legacy? Right. No. From I tell my son at 10, I said, hey, what you're doing now will reflect on you later on. And I tell him all the time, and he doesn't understand me as much, but he kind of gets it. And I'm like, what you're doing at 10, people are watching. You are a leader. Like when he's going hard on himself, like tough because he didn't do so, I said, hey, get over it, recover. You are a leader. Your legacy starts on literally day 1 of whatever you're doing, whatever sport you're in, whatever family situation, whatever job you're in, because legacy doesn't have a time on it. And we never know when that time's gonna end. Like even like you said, like before you put it for sheriff, if you didn't get it, and this is what I've heard, and I don't know if it's like here, but when new sheriffs come in, they can fire pretty much, or it doesn't guarantee you're gonna come back. So your legacy could have ended at the sheriff's department right there. Now you don't want to say, oh man, I wish I would have did this last year when I was a lieutenant or a captain. Well, no, you do it now while you're in these roles, because you may go back to 2020, go back to COVID. People just start leaving law enforcement or leaving whatever they're doing. So all the legacy they thought they were going to do, they missed it because they waited. So that's why I push it so hard. I'm like, hey, start today, because you never know what tomorrow has to offer. So a legacy building has to be an everyday thing. But it still sucks to talk about it because
it feels weird.
It feels weird. It's just weird because you're just like, I don't want to say that's what I'm doing. No, you need to, because it's important for you to know that you're building. Yeah. And one thing I know I've learned, I'm not a psychologist, but through some of the psychologists I've talked to, like when they do like inmate assessments, some of the things they talk to them about is hope and building. And they want to get them to understand that there's more to life from whatever they have going on. So when you know you're building your legacy, what is that hope? So same thing. I hope to build a strong legacy. So you don't want to say, well, I'll build legacy in a couple of years. No. So that's why you use that as a strategy to pretty much trick your mind and say, no, there's going to be positive days because this is the legacy I'm building.
That's so true. That's good, man. Like I thought we were just going to have a conversation. Here I am learning now.
This is just how it goes. But I tell people, this is the reality. Like, and you don't have to be in law enforcement to understand, like, we're people. Like, your story can be anybody's story. Literally, anybody that's watching, listening, anybody that's heard it before, your story, you can insert it, and you could take your same story and put it in any industry in this world. You could have been a scientist that went through this. You could have been a professor that went through this. But in this case, you're in law enforcement, you went through this. I mean, people sometimes think that because we put on a uniform that everything that's happened before our lives has to get erased and anything else we're doing doesn't count. But what you have gone through is a testament of your character as well. And I think when we look back on it, or even when you look back on it, when you're taking away your own like when you're not trying to be humble and you look, you're like, man, I really set a lot of people up just by being here, wherever that's at. I'm present. Your kids will appreciate it. Your third wife will appreciate it.
My final wife.
your third and final. We'll say your third and final, but regardless, that's what it is. So for you, since you've been building your legacy, and that's what I'm going to say, you've been building it all your life. You've been building it for nearly 50 years. How do you think your family sees that?
Oh man,
that'd be the last tough question. We'll do two questions after that, but that'd be the tough. That'd be the one that I like to hit home because it's all about obviously building us, and then what is your family seeing right now, or what do you want them to see?
Well, I tell you, man, I know they're proud of me. People have been asking me recently, like, where's the next chapter going to lead me, right? And it's really political, in the political realm. Right. Are you going to go and run for a state position, or even further than that? And me, I'm really resistant to that because I really like being the sheriff. Mm-hmm. And I see what's actually happening in politics right now, and I'm just really put off by it because whatever happened to civil discourse and being able to work with each other, we don't have to have the same opinions, but we can still be kind to each other and respect each other, and that's not what I'm seeing in politics today. But I came home one day recently, I'd say probably a month ago, and it was, I think I had a speaking engagement, and my wife, well, shoot, she was actually there.
Good choice.
Yeah, she doesn't. She hardly ever goes to anything. She likes to keep our private life private, and my public life. That's all you. Go do you. But I came home and she goes, "You can't leave." And I was like, "What?" And she goes, "You are loved by the community. You belong here." Mm-hmm. And when she said that, it made me realize that for the first time ever in my life, I finally have a community.
You have a home.
I have a home. Yeah. You know, I've moved 38 times in 48 years, lived in 10 states and 3 countries, but Liberty, Missouri is home. Mm-hmm. Clay County, Missouri is home. And that, I mean, it really crashed down on me, and I was just like, man, like, so I see my wife, her expressions and the things that she says to me about how I interact with the community, how accessible I am to the community, mm-hmm. and I don't care if it's a one-on-one coffee meeting or if there's 300 people, 500 people in a room.
Correct.
I will be there, I will be authentic, and I will be completely open and transparent with you. You may not always like the answers I give.
That's up to
them.
But
that's transparency, right?
That's it.
And my kids, they're, gosh, we never know how successful our kids are going to be. Mm-hmm. But I will say that I think because of my experiences, not saying, hey guys, because look at me, I've done this, now I expect you to do this. They've internalized it, and they're like, man, in my mind I'm thinking, if dad can do that, I know I can. Mm-hmm. Because they've got a little bit of competitive spirit.
Oh, my 10-year-old, he stays on me. Everything I've been, even with the speaking stuff, he starts to record his own videos. And he tries. He's like, but you got to set that.
Yes. And so my oldest son, because of his own drive, he's an environmental scientist, mm-hmm. and he's just crushing it. My middle son, he joined the Army right after high school, and he did 3 years in the Army, 1 tour in Iraq, and was accepted to a program called Green to Gold. So the Army's paying for his education, and he'll go back into the military. And he just graduated airborne school last July, 5th of July.
I wonder why he went to airborne school. Right. Yeah, we only wonder why that's watching it. And if you don't know why, trust me, go back to the video. You'll figure it out.
Yeah. I got to admit, man, that was one of the most proudest moments of my life, mm-hmm. because there were about 200 people in the stands for graduation. Mm-hmm. And the MC asked all the legacy paratroopers to stand up. I shot up and I looked around and I was like, what? There were only like 20 of us.
Yeah.
I was just like, dang. And then they invited us to go out and pin the airborne wings on our paratrooper. Man, it took everything that I had to fight the urge to just run to my son. And,
y'all move out the way. I'm coming through. Y'all watch out.
So, but he's doing really well. And then my youngest son graduated from high school early, mm-hmm. to join the Air National Guard. Mm-hmm. So he went to Air Force Basic Training and Tech School, had a gap year, so he worked. And then now he's in the Aerospace and Mechanical Engineering program at Missouri S&T. While he's still in the Air National Guard. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, these guys, they're taking life by the horns and making it what they want. I like to think that it's because of the work ethic that I've shown them, not because I'm like, hey, you need to be like me. It's just like, hey guys, it's just necessary to go the distance, to be more than what you think you should be, because it's not just about you, it's about family, it's about your friends, and just getting really philosophical with them. And so I guess the way my family looks at me, oh gosh, I wish they were here to answer that question. Actually,
well, we'll have to get them to chime in next time. Like, I'll be in Clay County. I'm bringing the whole family. We're gonna have microphones. We're gonna have a table set up. We're just gonna do a little round table.
But I think when you boil it all down, my dad left when I was 3 years old. I did not have a father figure, and one of my greatest fears was to be a terrible father.
I know the feeling.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
And so I still beat myself up, right? Because I'm not, my kids are grown men now. You know, they're kids, they're men. But I've always tried to be the example, set the example, just be what I needed, what I thought I needed to be for them so they could be successful in their own right. And so, when you boil it all down, I'd like to think that I've been a positive influence in their lives, to include my wife.
Well, yeah, and it's crazy. I think at the end of the day, I think they all know that you love them.
Oh gosh.
And I think that's where it really counts, because, like you said, sometimes people say, well, or they have a misconception that, well, if I'm not there, I can't be a strong father. No, you can do other things. Like you said, Skype, I FaceTime. I mean, people know I travel often.
Yeah.
I FaceTime my son every day.
Yeah.
Every single day. Only time I don't is maybe I fell asleep or he's sick. And if he's not with me, like, we will FaceTime every day. He knows that although I'm not physically there with him every day, that I love him. And I think in your situation, the family understands that. And just through some of the successes that they've had up to this point in their life, and they will continue, you're seeing that they're paying attention.
Oh yeah.
And because of their all competitive natures, they're like, you know what? If Dad do it, I can do it better than him. Which, that's what you want as a kid.
Yeah.
We all want. And I tell people, because we're younger, meaning that we're not like our 80s or 90s. I don't mind if my kids take care of me when I'm older. I won't need it. I don't think. I don't need it. But I would love to say, you know what? I set up the foundation to where now they're happy taking care of me, because some people just like that. And I'm like, you know what? I designed it and I set them up for success. So that's what I look at.
Yeah. I've always loved my kids. That was one thing that was just like, there was no question about it. And I would show them. I'd always hug them and sit them on my lap, and I'd read to them. Oddly enough, I didn't really start liking reading, liked to read, until I got into my doctoral program. But I always read for my kids. Yeah. But that, with my experience in Afghanistan, when I really learned about how fragile life really is and how quick life can just end, I came back a changed person. And my sons now, they know that when I see them, I'm going to give them a hug, I'm going to kiss them on the cheek and tell them I love them.
They just have to.
And I will do the same thing when they leave, right? And I told them, I was like, hey, I remember one time my oldest son, he kind of reached over like this, and I was giving him a hug, and I felt it, and I grabbed him, I pushed him out and brought him back in. I was like, don't you ever do that again.
We ain't doing to have fun.
Just accept it.
Yeah, trust me. Hey, when you get older, you're gonna, if you see some of the stuff I've seen, you're gonna be doing the same exact thing.
Man.
But it's called life.
Yeah.
You understand that no day is guaranteed. And since there's no day that's guaranteed, you need to show the ones you love that you love them.
Yeah.
In any form imaginable. And they're gonna know it, because they're gonna feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it's been interesting. It's been an interesting ride. My 20s, I was wild and out of control. I was a pilot. I mean, come on. In my 30s, very turbulent decade of my life. Afghanistan, not just one divorce, but 2 divorces. And then my 40s, it's kind of like I was reclaiming my life.
Everything's starting to come together.
Yeah, it started coming together, and I finally realized, but it was also a mixture of experience, but also kind of wisdom too. Knowing that, whoa, I don't have to be an a-hole to get my point across. I can have patience. And now, Man, I'm extremely patient.
Well, sometimes you just got to wait an extra second or wait a few more minutes, and things will happen. You're like, oh, I didn't even have to stress out about this.
Yeah.
I didn't have to micromanage it, or I didn't have to go out of my way to get a point across. It just got to sit there like, are you done?
Yeah.
Are you done yet? Like, did you get it all out your system? Okay, now let's work through this issue, whatever it might be.
I'm still human,
Yeah.
and I do get emotional sometimes, not very often, but it's usually something that's really ticked me off, right? We all get like that. But now I finally feel like in my 50s, oh, I'm so looking forward to my 50s, man, because I know it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I really do. But even the example that I've set at work is, I don't know how many times I've told my commanders especially, they were like, hey, Sheriff, how come you're not doing this? Or, how come you're not doing this politically? And I'm just like, whoa. I was like, how do you know I'm not doing something? And the response is usually like, well, what do you mean? I go, watch how this ends up, and then I'll explain it to you. But I'll tell you this much. This is how I think it's going to end up. I don't know when it's going to happen, but this is how it's going to end up. And sure enough, it ends up that way. And they come back and they're like, how do you do that? And I was like, it's like a chess game. Don't hate the player, right?
Hate the game.
Hate the game.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to address the game? Be as good as you can at it.
Yeah. Because that's what it is. I mean, and we call it politics, game, or whatever. That's just life. So with all this that you've said, all this that you're doing, everything that you're striving for, if people were trying to find you, how would they do that?
Very easily. Like I said, I'm very accessible. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. On Facebook and Instagram. On Facebook, I have 2 pages. My official page, which is Sheriff Will Akin, and my personal page, which is very personal. I'm an open book.
Yeah.
It's just Will Akin. Yeah. And
keep it simple.
But Instagram is at Sheriff Will Akin, and I used to be on Snapchat, but man, I don't have time for that. But then Will Akin EDD is my LinkedIn, and my email is will.akin@sheriffclayco.com, and just hit me up if there's anything that I can do for the viewers or for you. Like I'm there.
Well, it sounds like you're going to be filling up your sheriff's office a lot quicker just based on something like this, hopefully. Hopefully there's a few perspectives out there that say, you know what, we want to go work for the county up there.
Oh, man, that'd be awesome.
I try to be optimistic about it. That's why I say it. So with the final word, or excuse me, what people be able to find you now, all the different social medias, the email, what final words do you have?
Final words. Life is too short. Life is too short. There are times to be serious, and then there are times to enjoy life. And don't forget that there are people who are in your life that need you. And that just doesn't mean being there for them, because you have to be there for yourself first and foremost. Because if you can't be the best version of you, then what are you to everyone else? And that was a hard lesson that I learned just last year. And it finally opened my eyes to realizing that I have to be able to take care of myself in order to be able to be there for other people. Because if I'm not taking care of myself, then the relationship is not going to be as strong, or the partnership or whatever we're doing is not going to be as strong. So in your presentation, you talked about kind of like the importance of taking care of yourself and then your family and then your organization. I couldn't agree more. Because you have to be, when I say to be the best version, it's not just going out there and pursuing educational opportunities. It's not pursuing training. It's be the best version of you mentally, physically, emotionally, because then you're that much of a better version that people can count on. So take care of yourselves, everyone.
Because life is short, and I think all the points that you hit on, especially the final words, obviously it's pretty much all the stuff I talk about, it takes us time to learn. It's not an overnight process, but as we learn it, we realize that being present, understanding how short life is, that we can't let days slip away. And if we do, we're not just disservicing ourselves, we're disservicing around the people that are around us, family, friends, peers, colleagues, and then the organization, which we tend to put at the top. We're disservicing them because we're still not whole. We're taking off more sick days, or we're at work for 10 hours, but we're only mentally there for 2 or 3 hours. So it all starts with how we grow ourselves, but realizing that life's not guaranteed. So guys, I know you enjoyed this episode. I don't have a clue how long it's been. I think we were only supposed to go 20, 30 minutes. It may have been longer than that. And we kind of talked about that before, like how long can it go? But I hope you learned something or even more of what I always talk about. And you've seen how people go through different things in life, and it's okay to be different. It's okay not to have the same story, but know that your story is unique, and when you share it, you don't know who you're impacting. As he said, you heard the roller coasters he's been through, but at the end of the day, everybody that actually knew you were doing it out of love. And that's the important side. From his mother to even his father, that you didn't have that relationship with. I mean, that's a resilient story I don't even have, because I never made that connection yet. But I would never put it past it, because I don't know. Right. Everybody can get a second or third chance. It's just what it is. I mean, there's very few instances, and that's usually if somebody does anything to my son, my mom, my sister. They may not get a second chance on that, and it has to be something egregious. But every other situation is possible. But a lot of it starts right here. And if you want to be that whole person, you have to continue to work on yourself. So, guys, make sure if you want to hear more about Will and his story, or just want to go with another positive person that maybe you're having a bad day, we're humans. And that's the point of the LEO First podcast, is that we show the human side of what goes on underneath or behind the uniform. Because just thinking that we're all the same, or you're the only one going through something, you're not. You don't know how we got to our seats. And if you're wondering how to get to your next seat, that's what we're here for. So once again, thank you, Will, for being on. Appreciate everything. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, like it, share it. Spread the word, not even just my podcast, just on mental wellness and making yourself a better person, because I want to see all of you at some point, or I want to be able to share life experiences, because I think that's extremely important. So important for me. I tell it's important for Will as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you guys once again. If you need anything, reach out. If not, you guys have a great day.
You've been listening to the LEO First Podcast. Michael has been in law enforcement since 2005. He's worked for 3 law enforcement agencies in 3 different states. He's a professional speaker who travels the country teaching about leadership development and self-awareness. And he's the author of a book called Greatness Beyond the Badge: The 3 Key Principles for Self-Awareness. It's Michael's passion to bring law enforcement members' stories to the front, so you get the real and raw take. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with Michael on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Michael Laidler, on Twitter at Michael A. Laidler, on Facebook at Michael Laidler Leadership. Send an email to michael@michaellaidler.com and hit the website at michaellaidler.com. See you next time on the LEO First Podcast.